And for more on global supply chains and China's critical role, let's now bring in Andy Mok. He's a senior research fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. Andy, thanks so much for coming on with us. What is the overall aim of CISCE this year, and how is it different compared to 2023?
Well, thanks for having me, Karina. Well, I think we first need to recognize just how important global supply chains are. So when we look at the services and the goods that we consume, I think of it as really like an iceberg, that we only see the visible 10%, and the 90% that is submerged, that cannot be seen, are the global supply chain. So these are the suppliers, the manufacturers, the logistics providers, and of course the retailers. And what China is doing here is really providing the glue for the entire global supply chain. Of course, it produces a lot of goods that the world consumes, but here I think this is subtly different, that it is bringing together all of the players. And I think this is what's very important, that this is the first national level global supply chain event in China. And I think the second one, the second edition of it, really emphasizes just how important supply chains are, as we heard in the package earlier, that global CEOs from the top companies in the world see this as vitally important, as being at this event and making sure their voices are heard.
We also saw Africa attending the event as well, which is something that China seems to be focusing in on as well. But I want to ask you, what are some of the cutting-edge technologies and supply chain innovations at this year's event?
Well, there are two aspects to this, Karina. So I think you're right that African countries are not just participating, but China is playing an important role in supporting the global South. So my understanding is that at least some of the exhibition spaces being provided on, I guess, complimentary terms for some participants, again, to encourage greater integration of the global South into global supply chains. Now, if we go to the other end of the spectrum and look at some of the most cutting-edge technologies, to me, some of the most exciting ones are advanced manufacturing. So we see, because of sustainability issues, that moving towards greater automation is very, very important. And here, China's a world leader. Some call this lights out manufacturing, where you can have manufacturing with very little human involvement. And this is not just good for higher efficiency, but it allows factories to switch product lines very quickly as well. So this results in less waste, greater responsiveness to market demand. And I think this is one of the more exciting cutting-edge technology portions of the show. I think there's EVs, other sort of the usual suspects of high tech that we see, but I think advanced manufacturing is also very, very exciting.
China really is diversifying. President Xi just made a really successful trip to APEC and then to G20 as well, so reaching out to LATAM countries and then Africa, as we touched on earlier as well. I just want to get your response. What do you make of Donald Trump pledging to impose tariffs on China? And what is China, in essence, sort of trying to do to make sure that it is protected as far as having global trading partners in that respect?
Well, I think, the contrast couldn't be more stark in terms of the vision for a global future. So China, the United States, of course, the President Trump, the soon-to-be again President Trump, has made threats against China, but also against other countries, Mexico and Canada, that if he follows through, I think will end up isolating the United States and cutting it off from the main trends of development and integration. Now, we look at China pursuing a completely different global vision, which is one of globalization, integration. So you mentioned APEC, the G20. China's expanding its ties with South America, with Chancay Port in Peru, pursuing a number of other very important objectives. And I think the supply chain exhibition is one of them, because it not only is bringing companies together, but it is also streamlining supply chains in a vertical way. So by allowing suppliers, manufacturers, retailers, logistics providers to work together more closely that facilitates innovation, research and development, greater efficiency. So again, I think of it as China as once the workshop of the world, now is also providing the metaphorical glue that is binding global supply chains and countries together towards a more prosperous future that everyone can share in greater stability and prosperity.
Yeah. Now, there has been ongoing discussion about alternatives to EU tariffs on Chinese EVs in particular. Where does that stand? Because Europe accounted for about 40% of Chinese EV exports last year. It's a big market for China.
Well, from the European perspective, I think they are really facing a dilemma. They are genuinely committed to sustainable growth, and it's hard to see how that would be possible without transportation being a major component of that. And China, with its leadership, not just in technology, but cost, product innovation for electric vehicles, really, I think, has to be part of the equation. At the same time, I think the Europeans are rightly concerned about how to transition away from an economy, a system where the production of internal combustion engine vehicles has been a cornerstone of their prosperity. So this is a very, very difficult challenge for them. I think from the Chinese perspective, Europe, you're right, is an important market, but we also need to look at really the rapid growth in other parts of the world, Africa, Southeast Asia, South Asia, etc. And China increasingly, again, is able to offer a full spectrum of electric vehicle offerings, from very high-end luxury vehicles that can compete with the best of the European car makers to very affordable mass market EVs as well. So I think that from the Chinese perspective, again, I think whether it's the United States, whether it's Western Europe, that market access is good for everybody. But I think China has really a wide range of growth opportunities when it comes to electric vehicles.